Hi, I'm Adam Ostogel from Illuminate Education. I just wanted to help you prepare for the Illuminate NextGen Challenge that we're going to take your students through very shortly. So at Illuminate Education, we're completely focused on young people being confident, creative and capable. And to do that, we talk about a number of skills that we're going to come up time and time again throughout the program, and I encourage you to reinforce that as we step through it. We group these in 4 areas: communicate, understand, solve problems, and work smart. Now, by communicate, we're talking about speaking, writing, but also presenting and being persuasive in the way that you communicate. Understanding is all about critical thinking, being able to pull apart information, inquiry, doing the research to underpin that. But we also see digital literacy and financial literacy as key skills in this area to unpack digital knowledge, but also financial knowledge as well. Solving problems, well, creativity is key to look at new ways to solve problems, but actually going through the problem-solving process is a key skill to work on. And then reflection as well, because we believe through reflection, you can then innovate. And the final group, work smart. So collaborate, working in teams, working with other people, being organized, being able to set your own agenda, and being able to persevere when the challenges are there in front of you. So they're our skills that we talk a lot about, and I encourage you throughout the program, ask students about those skills and help them reflect on those areas. Now, our definition of an entrepreneur might be a little bit different as well. We're obviously going through an entrepreneurial focus, but we define entrepreneurs at Illuminate Education as people who have these 3 skills. They're self-confident, they're self-motivated, and they're resilient. They're self-confident, they know what their strengths are and they're willing to go out and make something happen. They're self-motivated, they don't need other people to tell them to do things all the time. They can actually go and do that themselves. They'll make the impact themselves. And resilient, because we all know the challenges that we can face, but they can bounce back and keep going. That, for me and for us as Illuminate, are critical to entrepreneurs, whether they are starting businesses or making change within organizations. Those 3 things are common in every single one of them. They're self-confident, they're self-motivated, and they're resilient. Now, another aspect as well in the way that we shape the environment, just to be aware of, is we use Daniel Pink's book, Drive, The Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us, to help set the environment and make sure it's engaging. And he boils down team engagement to 3 key areas: mastery, autonomy, and purpose. So by mastery, students want to develop skills. They want to get better at things. And so we're very explicit about what skill we're working on, what are we trying to achieve in this block, and how are we going to get there. Autonomy is about actually giving the students flexibility and freedom to find their own way to do it. There's not a perfect way to do everything when you're running your own business or anything in life. And so giving the autonomy for them to make the decisions and probably learn from some of those decisions is part of what we do, and we give students a lot of flexibility in that way. And the final element is purpose. It has to matter in the bigger picture. Every presentation aligns to something the students need to work on that helps them with their business in a tangible way. Their idea that they're creating is not just something they've come up with because we've told them the theme. They've actually then gone, how do we want to solve that? What are we interested in? And that helps them find the purpose as well. So that's some of the fundamental underpinnings of the Illuminate NextGen Challenge. Why don't I go straight into some of the expectations and guidelines so that you're accurately prepared for what's going to come through the challenge. So we encourage students, they have to attend all sessions on time. The student schedule they'll be provided with only has start times on presentations, so they know where and when they need to be in the room ready for those presentations. There are no optional sessions unless that is advised by the facilitators. The schedule that teachers have in the teacher briefing does have a lot more detail in it. Your briefing has a page per day, the students have a page for the week. And so you'll see in that when sessions should finish. We don't like to have presentations go on too long. We've also got breaks scheduled into our program, but the student schedule does not have those. We don't say this is when recess is, this is when lunch is. There's no bells ringing to say when those breaks are. Students have to make those decisions themselves, and guiding them to think, when is a good time to take a break? Should we do some work, have a break, and then go to the next presentation? Or should we have a break now, get a chance to have some fresh air and come back and work? That's some of the decisions we want them to make in this challenge. Now, in the middle of the program, students will be working from their own schools, working remotely on the program. There is an expectation they should be spending most, if not all, of their time on the program. We understand there might be some other commitments students need to step out for, but there is a lot of work that the students will need to complete, and that's where they start to tie in all the things that they're learning together into a submission that they're going to create and present back, and meet some of the deadlines that are on Wednesday and Thursday and help them prepare for the final day. And that's where I get to Friday. Friday is the day that we bring all the students back together. It's really exciting to see the work that has been completed on those days remotely. Students come together and present their final ideas. There is also an awards ceremony on that final day, and we encourage, if you have not yet, invite parents, invite school leaders, invite other people in the community to come and see the fantastic ideas that have not just been presented by your students, but students all across the region. Now, on Friday, in our frequently asked questions document, we do say that while for Monday and Tuesday we'd like students to wear school uniform, it's a great way for them to feel part of their team and see the other schools that are in the room. On Friday, we'd love to see if they can be wearing business appropriate attire. And by that, we're not talking about suits and ties. We're not going to that level. We're not asking students to buy something they don't already have. But what professionally represents their business idea? Is it some smart casual clothing that all has similar colors that looks a bit like a uniform? Is it something that represents the business in a professional way? Because they're going to have to be asking for money, they're going to be asking for support, so turning up in footy shorts and singlets is not appropriate for any business in that regard. So it's something to think about. If students wear school uniform on Friday, because that's something that matches, that's perfectly fine, but it's just something to think about, and obviously ask our facilitators if you have any questions about that. Now, one of the big ones for us is deadlines. We're very, very strict around our deadlines. And so if students submit something even a minute late and we're judging those elements, we will be taking that down, and that'll be a 0 mark from our perspective. Some of the external work that is judged, the judges might be a little bit more lenient, but we advise them to do the same thing. I can't control what our scores our judges set, but I just want to let you know that we are very, very strict on our deadlines, and it's a 0 mark. It's all about that time management and organisation skills, preparing in advance. A deadline that's at 4 o'clock in the afternoon does not need to be handed in at 3:59. If it's a great piece of work, it can be handed in at 1 o'clock and you can take it off the plate. We want to build that time management and organisation skill through that. In terms of mobile phones, while we're in the central space, we'd love to see students using their mobile phones productively, doing research, taking notes. They might even take photos of slides. It obviously comes back down to school policy and how the school manages that. If you don't want your students to use phones, that's something that you should advise them around. But we encourage them to use them productively, but obviously using games and other things on them. If they are wasting their time, obviously, behaviour expectations, do what you need to do because they should be using them productively and helping their team. Now, in some of the spaces we work in, there are other people around. Sometimes we're on university campuses, when we're in public spaces as well. There are other people around, so it's just being respectful that while we're doing the challenge, and yes, there's a whole heap of students focused on what we're doing, there are other people living their normal daily lives around us, and we've just got to respect those users of the other spaces. And obviously behaviour expectations, it goes without saying, if your students are doing something that you need to bring them into line around, please don't hold back from that. That's not something that we want to sort of get in the way of. If students are doing inappropriate things, then those sort of repercussions should occur, and we tell all the students that that will still be part of the program. Now, in terms of the support for you and the students through the program, students all have a team binder that outlines a number of tasks. There's a number of templates and scaffolds in there to help them through the week. Students should not lose that binder because then they can collect all of their work throughout the challenge. We also have what we call our teacher binder, which has been sent through, which has an overview of the week and actually gives you that day-by-day breakdown of what students should be doing. So you've got an understanding, or another staff member that steps in has an understanding of what is actually going on those days. We're also using Slack, where students can communicate and ask the facilitators questions throughout the program, which is really important for those middle days where students are working in their own schools, that they can ask us those questions. The interesting point just to be aware of is because when we're roaming the room earlier in the week, students can easily just grab us as we're passing by. When we're on Slack though, we're not passing by their table. We're not in their school working with them. So they really have to ask every single question they've got. If there's 100 questions coming through every hour, we're not going to have a problem with that because that's fantastic students are using that service. But when they sit there and are not asking questions and not getting support, then we can't obviously help. So I encourage you to advise staff and other people who are supervising. If they have questions, just ask. We'll answer them as a facilitation team. Students also have access to the Team Resource Guide. teamresourceguide.com.au has all their templates, all their assessment criteria, all the tasks are outlined, and all of their work that is submitted electronically goes through that website. Earlier in the week, we'll introduce students to it and help them become comfortable with it. And then Wednesday and Thursday, that's a fantastic resource to use. And as you as staff are supporting students through that, why don't we go and check the Team Resource Guide and see what that says? There are a number of questions that we will just answer students. Check the team resource guide. When is this due? Check the team resource guide. If they haven't looked, we will be just telling them to go back to it. And I encourage you to show them the amount of resources that are there so they can use that. And then if they've got further questions, they can obviously ask us as facilitators to help with that. Now, that's sort of a bit around the expectations and some of the resources. Specifically, how do you support the challenge? And how do you get the most out of it? I've got a few things that I'd love to share with you around that. First and foremost, a vital support role. You're there, duty of care, understand that, but you're there to help the students go through this really exciting, engaging, and sometimes stressful challenge experience. And so that's a really great role, and we're really thankful for your support in that. In terms of supporting the students' learning, mentor them and actually question them what they're doing. Help them to create the answers. Don't sort of point them in the directions. Ask them where could they go and look. Help them understand, wait a minute, do you think it's a good idea you should have a break soon? Let them answer their own questions and actually guide them through that process as potentially as a bit of a sort of co-learner rather than actually a teacher that's giving them the content, because they've been given the content through the program. We have a team leader election where the students do choose a team leader, and that person will then be guiding the team through most of the challenge. But earlier in the week, when that team leader isn't there, we do sort of suggest that staff should probably help a little bit more in that way and maybe getting the ball rolling for teams. Those leaders, those natural leaders, you've probably identified them on some of the teams and students that are coming through already. They'll just step up and do some of those things. But for some of those teams that need a little bit of support, we would look to teachers and to staff, and obviously us as facilitators will help that process. But once that team leader's in place, then that team leader should take over that responsibility as we progress through the week. Also, then with that team leader in place, I actually think you've got a really great role in supporting the leader. If something's going on in that team, if they don't feel like they're coping, if they can't get everybody on board, something else, grab the leader, step aside with them and have a chat to them and empower them in leadership skills. So that when they go back into the room or back to the table, they know what they're doing and they're in charge. I've seen a number of times where teachers come in and help and they take away that leadership role from that leader and say, here's how we're going to do this. Empower the leader to have that conversation, get them ready to be able to control their team and keep everything running smoothly without the team sort of saying, oh, it's a teacher saying this. Empower that leader so they trust that leader that they've elected in their team. If you've got a great network of people, don't hold back on connecting them with people. Everybody has fantastic networks, or we have some teachers that go, oh, but I know all these people. Great. If your students need to connect with them, connect them up just like anybody else would. Don't hold back from your networks if you think it's appropriate. I encourage you to reflect with students, especially towards the afternoon sessions. Reflect with them. What have they got out of the challenge? What could they improve? What could they do differently? Some of those skills that we talked about at the start, reflecting will help them refine their approach and come into the next day or even the next session with a bit of a renewed focus. So that reflection opportunity is fantastic. I got a point about promoting good strategies because I actually think you'll have some great tips around time management, around organisation, around collaboration. If the students could benefit from those skills, as you actually presenting that as a peer, oh, I got a lot out of this. You might benefit from this as well. Or this is how I plan my lessons. Hey, you guys, this might be a way for you to plan your day. Those good strategies, just share them with them because that's going to help their skill development. Now, we sort of don't want you to lead the teams. It's probably come through a fair bit. But if a team needs that bit of nudge, then ask questions to help get them on track. Hey guys, have you got an idea of where and when everything is due? Where is everybody working? What's going on? Have you actually prepared to have things ready in on time? Some of those questions that might frame their thinking and get them to go, wait a minute, we need to get on track. That's not you telling them you need to get on track. That's them making that decision. So some of your questions might push them along a little bit, but don't lead them. I have seen staff in other programs write a schedule up on the board, write everybody's name behind a task, and basically guide them through that entire process. And that autonomy is not there for the students to learn. So ask questions to push them, but obviously don't be the leader of a team. And the last one that I have for basically tips to enjoy the challenge and get the most out of the experience is just enjoy the experience. Enjoy sitting alongside the students as they do something a little bit different, as they step out and become those confident, creative and capable young people they have the potential to be. They take a bit of ownership. They take some control of their learning. They might struggle a little bit with some of those tasks. We're here to help them through that And the relief and the empowerment of students when they feel like they've overcome something is really, really incredible. And for you to be alongside that, you'll be able to experience that as well. Often we see teachers, as they go through this sort of experience, being an extra team member in some of these teams because they've just been on the journey and so engaged with where the learning has been. So I encourage you not just sort of look at how do you support the learning and all that sort of stuff, but also just look at how you can enjoy the experience as we run through the Illuminate Next Gen Challenge.